Hi everyone, I'm the Woodchuck Gourmet. I adopted that name because I like really good food, gourmet food, but I serve it up in a way that is not gourmet. So tonight we're going to be making bacon, homemade bacon. Very easy to do. All it requires is a pork belly, some spices, and a plastic bag. And then, of course, a smoker for when you're ready to do that. However, you can also use a grill. So the first thing I need to do is to trim off this pork belly. This is an about 11-pound pork belly. I need about 5 pounds, so I'm going to cut it roughly in half. The weights don't have to be perfect, which is nice because it just makes life a lot easier. But before I cut it in half, I'm just going to trim it up a little bit to get off some of this excess fat and excess just kind of grossness on the edges. So I start out by just trimming off a little bit of this fat just to square things up and get off these little tag ends of fat that aren't gonna smoke up well, and they're not gonna add to the flavor of the bacon. I really enjoy making bacon because it's completely different than the stuff you get in stores unless you are paying top dollar. I got this pork belly fresh at Northeast Kingdom Processing. They were very good about it. All I had to do was call them and let them know that I wanted a pork belly and how much I wanted, and they were able to supply it to me with very little waiting time. One of the ways that I believe I make this a gourmet dish, a gourmet food, is by using local ingredients, using as fresh spices as I can, and by putting it all together in a way that's very careful and designed to please. So here we have our pork belly. I'm going to cut it approximately in half. I only need 5 out of 11 pounds. Cut it right about there. This is an entire side of bacon. When I make my own bacon, I use my own pork because we raise pigs in the summer, because I'm kind of picky about the meat that I eat. But I think that the food that we eat that nourishes our body should also nourish us, our souls and our hearts. So here's my pork belly, and that's basically all you need. You don't need a lot of trimming. After it's smoked, you can trim it if you really want to. You can square this up. The reason I don't is because I like bacon, and this will all smoke up and be very good to taste later on, and I can trim it after it's smoked and then eat the bacon that I trim off. A little word about the spices. I recommend getting the freshest spices you can possibly get, using whole spices. For instance, I use whole peppercorns and then ground them myself. I'm also using whole juniper berries that were lightly crushed. I used fresh nutmeg. I ground my own nutmeg. This is actually what nutmeg looks like before you grind it, which before I ground nutmeg, I never knew that. That's 2 tablespoons of those. It's 4 tablespoons of coarsely ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, a 1/4 cup of sugar. You can use white sugar, you can use brown sugar, but of course up here in the Northeast and in New England, I would guess people are just going to use maple syrup because we can. About 5 sprigs of thyme. This is garlic. The recipe that I used called for 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. I used 5 or 6 because we grow garlic and we have lots of it and we love it. So it's going in there. 3 bay leaves, crushed up. There are 2 ingredients that you're going to be using that you do have to make sure are going to be exactly the right amounts. And they are salt. The size of the crystals matters when you're doing a volume measure, which is why I use weight, because with weight it doesn't matter. I use 50 grams of salt. 50 grams is 50 grams. Get yourself a good kitchen scale. They're fairly cheap, and you'll make sure that everything you're using is consistent. This is about 4 tablespoons if you're not going to get a scale. Okay, so 4 tablespoons of Morton kosher salt. This is pink salt. also known as Prague Powder #1 or Instacure #1. This is not Himalayan pink salt. Himalayan pink salt is not suitable for this. This pink salt has sodium nitrite in it. Sodium nitrite helps to preserve the bacon. It also gives it that pink color and the distinctive bacon taste. I use pink salt because it's what makes bacon taste and look like bacon. I know that there are people out there who eat so-called uncured bacon, which is actually not uncured. It's actually typically cured using celery powder. And the fact is, celery powder has sodium nitrite in it, which is why it works for curing. It's a natural source of sodium nitrite, but the chemical composition is exactly the same as what's in here. This pink salt combination is only 6.25% sodium nitrite. The balance is sodium chloride, which is table salt. People get concerned about eating too much sodium nitrite, so I went ahead and I did a little research to find out how dangerous or not sodium nitrite is. And it turns out that, without getting into all of the mathematics, it takes a little less than 1.5 grams of pure sodium nitrite to be lethal for a person who weighs 150 pounds. This salt combination has, for 1 gram, has 0.0625 grams of sodium nitrite in it. That is going to be suitable for 5 pounds of bacon. I did some math and I figured out how much bacon you would have to eat in order to have enough sodium nitrite to kill you. You'd have to eat about 93 pounds of bacon all at once, because sodium nitrite, being a salt, is going to flush out of your body, so it does not accumulate. It's not a cumulative effect like, for instance, getting mercury in your food. But if it makes you more comfortable to use a different kind of curing agent, by all means. Bacon that's cured with celery powder will not look or smell or taste like bacon that's cured with sodium nitrite. The rest of this process is very easy. I'm going to combine all of these spices into one bowl, and then I'm going to take those spices and put them in a large bag, seal the bag, and then let the bacon sit for about a week. So I've got my bowl for all my spices, and like I said, this is dead simple. You take your spices, make sure they don't stick to the bowls, empty them into the larger bowl, and last but not least, maple syrup. Right now I'm just mixing up the cure. And you want to make sure that the pink salt and the table salt, the kosher salt, gets mixed in very well. Pretty much salt is salt, except when it's iodized. Do not use iodized salt for this application. So I've got my cure, I've got my bacon. I'm going to get a bag. In this case, the bag is just going to be to hold this bacon for about a week until it's fully cured and ready to be smoked. You can go to the store and get 2-gallon Ziploc bags. I recommend Ziploc bags, not generic 2-gallon bags, only because the locking mechanism on Ziploc bags is of much better quality than most of the generic brands. I would recommend you use 2 bags, one inside the other, because if this leaks, it can make quite a mess. So I'm going to put my bacon in there. I'm going to take my cure. This is the fun part. I'm going to get about half of the cure in my hand. And then I take this, and as you can see, I'm just spreading it onto the pork belly. Okay, and just moving it around. You don't have to rub it in real hard. It'll soak in. Like I said, it's going to be there a week, so it's going to have plenty of time to soak in. I want to make sure the edges are well done. If you look, you can see these edges are pretty much meat, and so you want to make sure you get some cure right into those edges pretty well. And any kinds of nooks and crannies, you want to stick your fingers in there with the cure on it and get the cure into those nooks and crannies as well. And then I'm going to flip my bacon over, bag and all. And then take the rest of my cure and slather that right on there. It's quite an olfactory experience as well. The smell of this cure is amazing. And that's basically it for now. I'm going to seal this bag. If you're using a Ziploc bag, do the best you can to get all the air out of it. What I did when I was using Ziploc bags was I would press all the air out of it. You can close it until just a very tiny corner of the Ziploc mechanism is open. And then you can either use a straw or just put your lips up to the bag and suck out the rest of the air and then snap it shut. And that's good enough. This can be kept anywhere from just below freezing because there is salt in it. So it can be kept anywhere from 29, 30 degrees up to 40 degrees. I'm going to put in my sprigs of thyme. And basically, again, you don't need to be real fancy. Just put them in there and that's it. And after this has been in this bag for about a week, we'll come back. Okay, so welcome back. It's been a little over a week and the bacon is indoors in a bag still, and we'll get that out of the bag and show you how to clean it off and then put it on the grill. But first I want to go over how you set up the grill. So when you're smoking, you want to make sure that you're using indirect heat, which means that you're going to turn on one burner. In this case, I have 3 separate burners. I'm going to turn on the burner furthest to the right, and I'm going to put the bacon on this grate over here. That way, the convection will surround the bacon and cook it nice and evenly without searing the bottom. So I have this little smoker box that you can buy at your local Home Depot or maybe local hardware store if there's still such a thing where you live. We're going to use apple wood and pear wood. We have pear wood because we just pruned a pear tree yesterday, a couple days ago, and so we're going to put those in there. Just a couple of sticks of pear and one of apple, and then we'll refill that a little later. And that goes like that. And we turn on the grill, close it up, and then we're going to let it get warmed up. So here we are in the kitchen. We're just about to unwrap the bacon, and we're going to wash the bacon. So I do it in a pan, that way I can catch all the big bits and I can get rid of them. So basically just going to cut this bag open, then we're going to pour the bacon and the contents of this bag into this pan. You'll see that it's beautifully cured. It's been in there for about 10 days because I have to work for a living during the week and I didn't get time to make it, but that's okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to put some water on that. We're going to wash it. Typically, what I do is I use a scraper, a little plastic scraper that you can get from any kitchen store. In this case, King Arthur flour, because we're that cool. And then I'm just going to put some water in here. You don't want to keep it in the water for too long because you might take off more of the flavor on the outside than you want to, but after 10 days, I'm not really going to worry about that. This is going to take about 5 minutes or so. I finished scraping off and wiping off the bacon, and now I'm going to do it. Take off the rest of the cure under cold running water. You don't want to use hot water because hot water will melt the fat layer, and you really don't want to do that. So just basically gonna give it a good wipe down. Finally, get the big chunks off. It's okay if there's some pepper left. You just want to get the berries off. You want to get the salt cure off as much as you can, and the loose pepper. Okay, and then we're going to take this bacon out. We're done. So now we're outside. The grill has been preheating for about 10 minutes, and I'm opening up just to make sure the smoke is starting to come out. You can see the smoke coming out of the smoker box, so we're ready to rock and roll. And this is all there is to it. I just take this and I put it on the grill. The temperature wants to be between 225 degrees and 250 degrees Fahrenheit. To be honest, I've had my grill go as high as 300 degrees for 10 or 15 minutes, and it doesn't seem to bother it much. The reason you want to keep it at a low temperature is because it doesn't melt the fat out of the bacon. I'll be right back to show you where to put the thermometer. If you have a double probe thermometer, I would recommend it. These thermometers on these grills are useless. So we're ready to insert the temperature probes. I have this Ready Check thermometer made by a company called Maverick. It's a really nice dual probe thermometer with a nice big display that you can see even when your eyes are old, like mine. I'm going to take one of these probes and I'm going to put it in the thickest part of the bacon. Usually there's one thick corner. That happens to be this one, and I'm just going to put my finger there so I don't stick it in too deeply. And that's going to go right in there. The next probe will go in this little tiny hole that's in the side of my grill cover. This was actually there when I bought the grill. If you don't have a hole in your grill cover, drill one. Now when you look at this, you'll see that it's registering two different temperatures, and I'm going to guess that number one temperature is the grill because it keeps going up because the grill is getting hot. Now we're going to wait for approximately 2 hours, maybe 3. We're going to keep the temperature at 225 degrees Fahrenheit for that time. That takes some checking on about every half hour. Another thing that we're going to be doing as time goes on that I won't be showing you is we're going to be taking out the wood box and putting in new wood about every half hour or so. So you can check your temperature and change your wood at the same time. At the end of this process, you want your bacon to be at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. It takes longer than you'd expect because you're cooking it at such a low temperature, but that low temperature allows the meat to cook more slowly and retain more moisture, and it will produce a superior bacon to anything you can buy in a store. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to open up this smoker to see the beautiful bacon. It should be ready to go. So join us as we check this out. Oh, and look at that. It's beautiful. Perfect. And actually, I'm lying because this bacon I actually smoked a couple of days ago, but in the interest of time, we've switched out the other two bacons, which you can tell because I don't even have the probe in this one because I forgot. So anyway, but this is what your bacon's going to look like when it comes out after about 2.5 hours at 225 degrees. You'll see that it is exquisite. You'll see the inside of that one because I've already cut off a slice of that. I also had to cut off a slice over here just to test it a little earlier. But it's ready to go, and we're going to go inside and slice off another hunk and see how it tastes. Now we're going to show you this bacon, a nice fresh slice of this bacon. It's much easier to slice after it's cooled, so I recommend when you turn off your smoker, don't cut the bacon until after it's cooled. And that's kind of a joke too, because when you turn off your smoker, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut off a piece of the bacon to test it because it's amazing and you deserve it. And so I'm going to feed a little bit of this to my camera holding assistant, who will then be able to comment on the flavor, texture, and everything else.
Perfect. Perfect.
Of course. So that's that. That's bacon making, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you enjoy making your own bacon.